from GreenRope. So, hi guys, welcome.
Hey, don't forget we're joined here with HR.
Oh yeah, of course. We can't forget LB. Let's see that little mug there. He always adds a lot of character to the conversation. So, before we get started, why don't both of you share a little bit about each company and sort of what your thoughts for the biggest trends in 2018 are going to be in terms of direct mail and marketing automation. And Dennis, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. So thanks, everybody, and thank you to GreenRope for hosting this webinar. Super psyched to be here. We've been working with GreenRope to develop a great integration, and it's working great. And so we're psyched about the partnership, and really happy to talk to the world about it. So I think, as we head into 2018, direct mail is in a very different place than it was a few years ago. And the fact that it is now can be deeply integrated into marketing automation and CRM really sort of changes the game. And so I think that from a high level, the fact that things can be automated, things can be measured and recorded and then synchronized back into the CRM is a huge advance. And I think that's really going to sort of change the game in 2018.
Awesome, thank you. And Lars.
Yeah, so CEO of GreenRope, and happy to be here. Thanks for joining us, Dennis. We've been doing CRM and marketing automation now for about 18 years. And over the years, we've talked about this bridging of online and offline, and there's a lot of hype about can you actually make this work? And we searched for many years to find a company like Postalytics that could actually do what we can do today, and it wouldn't be possible without a lot of engineering on both sides, but especially when you're actually printing and you do the personalization of the content that gets sent out and time it right when people are taking actions, and it helps cut through a lot of noise. And everyone says that content is king, but everyone believes that content is king, and so now there's so much content out there that it's hard to actually cut through all of that content with the stuff that people really want to get. And and that's not to say that email is certainly not dead, and social media is certainly not dead. But I've heard over the last 5, 10, 15 years, people say in various different forms, print is dead. Well, print is not dead. And the fact that some people think that print is dead means that they're taking themselves out of that channel as a way to communicate, which I think opens the door up for our businesses, for our customers, to cut through all that noise and deliver that message when they need to with relevant information, and then have it tracked and stored automatically in the CRM, where you can really, you get the information, you get the communication, and everything kind of comes together in one place. And so I think the connecting of these two companies between GreenRope and Postalytics, we use it ourselves now, and it's awesome. And having access to that information, that kind of process, really, it's the kinds of things that people talk about, but they don't. Someone wants to get down, but they don't. But they haven't really. It's very difficult to execute on if you don't have the right systems in place. And now we have a very easy way to do this connection. Anyone can do this. It's a matter of a few minutes to do the design work on Postalytics and then set up the Zap connector, and off you go.
Yeah, we're definitely really excited about it, and I think that judging by what both of you just said, we've got a lot of really cool things to talk about today, and I expect a lot of really great actionable information for all of our attendees as well. So I guess let's dive into it. And so Lars, kind of segueing off of what you said, about print is dead, but email is not dead, and all this stuff. Well, and I guess I'm going to start with Dennis on this one. It seems like direct mail, peaked years ago, and I think a lot of people kind of have that mindset, but it's now really making a comeback. What are the drivers behind this trend?
Yeah, so great question, and if you look at the numbers, at a high level anyway, direct mail volume is down, and it's down about 25% or so since 2008. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and some of them are really good. So, for example, we used to fill out business reply cards and send them back in the mail, and things like the online form have disrupted that part of the direct mail world. People do their banking and their bill pay online, and so there's a lot of reasons why direct mail total volume has dropped. But what's interesting is that it's sort of scared off a lot of marketers as digital channels sort of exploded. And so what's happened is that the mailbox is now a lot less crowded than the inbox.
Yeah.
And so as a result, savvy marketers are sort of looking at that and say, hey, if direct mail is easy, and if I can measure direct mail and it can be synchronized as a part of my whole CRM solution, maybe this is worth a shot to reach out. And so, that kind of opening where you can communicate in an uncrowded channel is really hard to find these days. And so that's really one of the great big drivers. What do you see there, Lars?
Yeah, it's the same. We've been doing email marketing since 2000. And back in the day, in 2000, not that many people were doing email marketing. And now, it's some ridiculous numbers. Billions of emails sent every day. And a lot of them get unread because we're so used to getting so much junk that we don't pay attention to it. And so when we talk about marketing automation to our customers, we always say, it's not a bad thing to have an email newsletter. You should educate people that way. But if you can get content right when people are doing something that's relevant to them, so maybe they fill out a form and the classic autoresponder case where you get an email back and it says, hey, this is relevant to this form I just filled out. That's good. Or you have some other action based on maybe somebody visits a web page, maybe somebody interacts with you on social media, whatever, that can trigger an email. You're more likely to get that email read. And so when you look at the difference, our newsletters, generally the open rate is around 25%, but our drip campaigns that are triggered by people taking actions generally open between 50 and 70%. So the timeliness and the relevance of the message really drives people to interact more. And I think once you can do the same thing with postal mail, direct mail, then you're able to leverage that same advantage where people are going to get something in the mail that's going to stand out to them because they're going to know it's relevant to something they just did. You can personalize it and you can say, this is for you, Joe, Mary, whatever. Here's a piece of information that you were really looking for, and here it is right now. You kind of get the best of both worlds where people don't really get that much mail anymore. And now you have the ability to actually get it delivered and personalized and integrated directly with your CRM in a timely manner. It's really the holy grail of finding the right channels that people are going to react to. So, if you're able to do this multi-channel approach where you're communicating with people on social, on email, on your website, and now with direct mail, you have the ability to really combine all of these methods of communication together, and then that builds into all the rest of what you can do with the CRM. And I think that really makes a big difference in creating this whole strategy, this cohesive strategy where all the pieces work together, and that's really an awesome thing. And I think that because not as many people do it, it means that you're more likely to get a response. It's like anything. When you do something different, people are going to say, or they're just more likely to pay attention to it.
Yeah, and there's some interesting things that have happened in the last few years that really enable that deeper response that you mentioned. So first, printing technology has completely changed. It used to be that there would be millions of postcards that went out that said "Dear Resident," and you get some sort of generic message like total spray and pray concept. But just like as you say in email, when a triggered piece of mail is being sent for a very specific reason at a very certain point in time that a marketer has figured out in a funnel or in a journey, then there's the impact of that piece of mail is so much higher than what the old junk mail used to be years ago. And then the other thing that has arisen recently, there's been a bunch of studies by neurobehavior psychologists, and they've taken a look at how the brain processes different types of messages. And what's really interesting is that when you touch and hold something and you read something that is physical, your brain processes it much more easily, much more quickly than a message that flashes across your screen. And so your brain processes the message that is being sent, and then you have 70% higher recall on a message that you received on a printed piece of material than a message that you received in a digital format. And so, by combining those channels and by getting that print out in a very personalized way, in a very timely way, and putting that message in front of somebody that they touch and they hold, they put it down, they go back to it, every one of those impressions is deepening your brand recognition, it's deepening the recall for the position and the message that you're trying to get across. And so it can be extremely powerful in that regard. And then ultimately, what all that leads up to is that response rates have grown by over 50% since 2010. So the mailbox is less crowded. You're getting better mail that is not as junky as it used to be, and you're getting those messages that are being absorbed by your brain, and so response rates have risen both for lead generation activities as well as for what they call house lists or lists that are sent to existing customers for retention and upsell and cross-sell. So all that has kind of come together now in this time in 2018 to really have a big impact on the marketing landscape.
Oh, and I think you guys brought up a lot of good points. And from your perspective, how do you see direct mail, integrating into your funnel? Where do you see it working in a marketer or in a salesperson's funnel? How have you seen it been effective? How have you not? Where do you see, where is its place in sort of the lead gen, lead nurturing, and lead retention areas?
Yeah, sure. So I think starting with lead gen at the top of the funnel, it makes a whole lot of sense that you can reach out to people and touch them by using personalization and by using data to target folks that are your ideal customer, right? You can build some personas, and you can build content that is appealing to those personas and offers and calls to action that makes sense. And you can use direct mail to drive people into your digital properties. And that's really what we're seeing a lot of now, because really there's so much attention being paid to email spam that you really can't go out and buy a list of email marketing. It's not very kosher, right? So, but you can do that with direct mail, right? And so I can go and target 10,000 people in a particular geography that meet a particular criteria, and target them with several direct mail pieces that go out that drive them online, so that I can begin to establish a digital footprint for all of the folks that are really interested in interacting with me. And so, you can use that outreach to drive people to you, capture email addresses, drop down cookies, do all the things you want to do for your digital marketing. But direct can kind of be that front end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I always forget about that because, since GreenRope is we've been in the email marketing space, and it's grown from Cooler Email, which was, one of the first email marketing platforms, we are so focused on, lists, bad lists and list buying, and especially, as a provider ourselves, and I mean, Lars will expand on this, but, you can't buy lists, but it's true. I mean, you can find out addresses of people in their homes. I mean, it's public record. You can go on to the county clerk and get all that information. So that's interesting. Lars, what do you have to kind of say about the funnel and lead gen and retention and all that stuff?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to send spam. So don't buy a list, don't rent lists. Like, you just don't want to do it. It's bad for your reputation. It impacts your ability to do business. You just don't want to do that. But using direct mail as a way to do your prospecting is a very affordable way to do it. And I would suggest that you still want to be targeted when you do it. I mean, you don't want to just say, give me everybody in a zip code and this very tactic. I mean, that's not an effective use of your money. But if you can target people, target businesses, target individuals and businesses, and there are companies that you can use to do this, then you can send out the targeted lists. And that in and of itself is not necessarily new technology. I mean, that's kind of been around for a while. The variable print probably the affordability of this has become much more reasonable in the last few years. As there's more print shops, the technology's gotten better. But I think the real key from our perspective is after that first step, once someone goes into a buyer journey, and you get them. So maybe you meet someone at a trade show. Maybe they are responding to this initial print piece that you send out everywhere. But it's that triggered response that I think really makes can really make or break the performance of your buyer journey. Where you can say, you're going to build these funnels, and you're going to say, I've got certain stages, and at some point you may say someone hits a particular stage, and we're going to send a print piece, and it's going to have the content that's going to be relevant to them. It's going to have, it's going to be personalized, Dear Joe, whatever in there, and that's helpful. But you can also use it because, as we all know, people don't linearly go through every sales funnel that you set up, and so you can see someone goes from stage 1 to stage 2. Sure, that might trigger something. But what happens if they get stuck at stage 2 for a while? Or what happens if you find them going back to stage 1? Do you have a way to have that trigger a workflow or trigger some way to send a message that says, here's a print piece that might push you over the edge. Maybe it's a discount, maybe it's more relevant information, maybe it's a link to another website, who knows? Whatever it is that your marketing mind can come up with. It's that ability to react that you can automate and will help people move through the funnel. And you can do that with email, you can do that with scheduling phone calls in your CRM, and you can do that now with print. And that's that timeliness, that triggered reaction that's going to really help a business go from, we have a certain number of people that go from stage 1 to stage 2, and certain people drop out, whatever, and then you just sort of accept that this is what your sales process looks like. To all of a sudden taking ownership and saying, hey, now we can take people that have gotten stuck here, and we can push them further down the funnel.
So both of you have talked about tracking, and bless you, have talked about triggers and tracking, and I think that's a huge part of why people, especially digital marketers, kind of shunned away from direct marketing for so long. It's just because it was not trackable. And so some of the ways that people have been, then we saw the advent of the QR code. So I want to ask, with triggering and tracking, because I know you guys have specific trackable links on the Postalytics cards. Where are QR codes in this grand scheme of things these days?
Yeah. So that's a great question. It's funny because I think, as is often the case with marketing tech, when QR codes came out, they were overblown, overhyped, and everybody thought they were a silver bullet, right? And so there's some great websites that are actually devoted to bad QR code use cases that you can look up, like driving down the highway and the side of a building QR code. Like, so I'm supposed to take my phone out and scan it while I'm driving, right? So I can put my phone.
That's
right?
bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So there's like all sorts of crazy stuff that people have tried to do with QR codes. But what is interesting about them on a piece of direct mail is that they provide an easy way to on-ramp somebody into an online experience, right? And so they have settled in and they've been used for the last 5 years or so to target folks in demographic areas that are maybe more prone to use them, right? But there's been actually a big change here, or very recently, in Apple's iOS 11 that was just released. Apple has actually embedded a QR code reader in their camera. So you don't have to download an app. You don't have to touch anything other than your camera. You just point your camera at a QR code now, and you're online. You're wherever that QR code is sending you on an iPhone. Now, Google is actually going to take it another step further. And in their camera, the next release coming up, their camera will not only recognize QR codes, but it will recognize any URL. And so they're building artificial intelligence into the camera apps so that the camera is actually understanding a little bit about what it is looking at and is doing the logical thing. And so, you hit a QR, you should interpret the QR and go online. If you hit a URL, interpret that URL. And so by incorporating that tracking on your print pieces, you are immediately gaining an understanding of how folks are interacting with your message. And so we make it free. It used to be you do a direct mail, and if you want to do a tracking URL or a QR code, you'd be paying all this extra money. We just embed it, right? Because we think every direct mail piece should be tracked. And so we just made it a part of our platform. And then the other part of the tracking that I think is important is that we're tracking the U.S. Postal Service's barcode scanning. And so what you'll be able to do, and you'll be able to do with our integration, is you'll be able to understand when your mail is being delivered. And so you can incorporate that into other parts of your journey or your funnel that you're building. And say, hey, Alessandra's mail is delivered today. Maybe we trigger, an email to go out tonight. So when she's picking up her mail when she gets home from work at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever it is that you get home, and you're looking at your mail, you get an email that is corresponding. Or in a B2B scenario, a call maybe gets triggered from a rep. And so you can mix and match the channels that way if you're capturing the delivery information like you always can with email, right? Now we can do that with direct mail.
So I think that kind of is a good segue into, we've been talking, and this is where I think, Lars, you're going to have a lot of insight too, is, we've talked a lot about direct mail and we've talked a lot about automation. So now let's just define, what is direct mail automation? What does it really mean for the consumer? Is it like a drip campaign, like an email drip campaign? Is it, how would you define what direct mail marketing automation? And I'd love to hear it from both sides, from both of you, from, the Postalytics, direct mail side, as well as from the marketing automation side.
Yeah, I think when you're talking automation, you have to be working in a platform that reacts and can support the way you want to do business. And so that means that from a business management perspective and a marketing and a sales perspective, understanding what you want your sales process to look like. And none of that lives in a vacuum, right? You've got salespeople, you have marketing people, you have customer service people, and they're all going to be contributing to the data that's built around the relationship, and that's really what you need your CRM for, to capture all that data. And I'm really excited. I did not know that about Google URL interpretation. That's really cool. I did notice that with my iPhone when I was taking a picture or something, and I noticed it went over a QR code a few weeks ago, and it just popped up and said, "Do you want to go to this website?" And I thought, that's pretty cool information. But that all ties together. When we're looking at how we want to understand the buyer's journey and how we want to influence the buyer's journey, because really, as marketers, we want to be able to influence the decisions that people make and have them come to what we sell. And whether that means handing them over to a salesperson or driving them to an e-shop or someplace online where you can actually manage the process automatically, in all cases, you're still modeling the way someone behaves and trying to influence them to do something. So when I hear of automation, I think of not just kind of the dumb robot kind of, send us a postcard every day for the next 2 weeks, whatever. It's really about listening and personalizing. One of the things that we do with personalized URLs is you can have a special URL that's made just for that individual person, and that special URL then can say, you can have the postcard that says, Dear Mary, Dear Joe, and has tailored content, but then also being able to have that on a landing page so that postcard can then trigger, whether it's an email to them or it triggers, you have the QR code or the URL that brings them to a page that says something specific, relevant for that individual, whether it's a video or other content that's personalized to them. That's what's really going to resonate with people, and that's what makes your message stand out. And that's how we use automation. Automation is not necessarily just a way to automate delivery. It's also about personalization. And we can cross different campaign styles and different channels. And we can say, here's a print piece, here's an email, here's a website, all of which are tailored to you. That means then you're more likely to respond. I mean, it's true. And when we see it, it's easily at least double the interest and the interaction, the engagement from that personalized content. So what we want to do is work with marketers so that they can think in terms of, well, what do I want to have happen? How do I want to push someone through this sales process? And if we can do that with these different channels, then we have the personalization. It removes those barriers that people put up to why they don't want to buy from you. And so by integrating these pieces together, we have the automation, we have the personalization, and we have a way to measure it all. And so we can then adjust and change our tactics. So it's not a matter of, especially with variable print, you don't have to print 1,000 versions of something anymore. You can just print on the fly. And when you can personalize the content and then change it if you see it's not working as well, or do testing and do A/B testing and see you've got different performance for either one. It allows you as a marketer to adjust and adapt and reach through all the campaigns and figure out what works best.
So I want to go back to what you're saying, Lars. I want to hear what Dennis has to say about direct mail automation and what it really means. But after that, I want to touch back on how you're breeding that data into personalize those messages, because I think that's a huge part of it. So yeah, Dennis, why don't you tell us, from your perspective, what is direct mail automation? What does it really mean for not only the consumer, but for the business, and how they can, who is best suited to use direct mail automation?
Sure. So, I completely agree with what Lars is saying about, how the automation tool is a part of the funnel and allows you to move and groove and really zero in on creating experiences, right, with your content. And because people aren't expecting to get it, right? So when people get something in the mail and it looks good, it looks high quality, and thought through, and it means something, you're actually shaking them up a little bit, right? So, one thing my mother always taught me after Christmas or my birthday, I'd have to send out thank you notes, right? And so I still do to this day. I send out a thank you note, and that's really hard to do from a business standpoint, but it's not that hard to do when you automate your direct mail and you can put together a really thoughtful way to say thank you and have that automatically happen when somebody becomes a customer or when somebody buys something, right? Or you can have a personal letter from the CEO go out to every new client, or on their anniversary every year. Hey, you've been with us now for 10 years. We really appreciate your business so much. We want to give you this. Please respond right here. And those types of things are unexpected. And so part of what I think is really kind of the opportunity is for marketers is to create some of these experiences that go above and beyond what everybody else is doing. And it doesn't have to be this huge amount of work. It's some setup, it's some coordination, it's good marketing. And once you've got these things up and running, the dividends are immense. And so, from an automation standpoint, I think we talked about kind of top of the funnel, middle of the funnel. There's also this whole kind of post-sale thing that you can do and really stand out and really make your brand shine and look like you're a company that cares about your customers. And so that's kind of one thing is important to think about.
Yeah, I think you just gave me an idea. I think you just gave me some ideas. I'm definitely, just thinking about it, and I think what you're saying, especially, even post-sale, as marketers, we focus so much on, the top of the funnel and lead nurturing and even salespeople, and it's really what you do after that sale and how you can personalize those relationships that make all the difference. And I think that, print can play a really large part in that. So, yeah, I just got some good ideas. Thanks, Dennis. You talked about some of the best use cases for direct mail automation, and I think that we've kind of understood, what some of those are. My next question is going to kind of focus on, the CRM, the data aspect of it. How does data and behavior tracking, affect print marketing? What are some best practices for how you can use data effectively and, without getting super, complex, creating complex workflows to create something that's going to work, just kind of like some of the use cases, that Dennis was mentioning. And Lars, I think you could start with that one.
Yeah, the two big game changers, I think, when it comes to CRM and marketing technology really are lead scoring and predictive analytics. Being able to associate a score based upon people's behavior patterns. So when we can say that, on a lead scoring side, maybe it's the receiving of a postcard, maybe it's the delivery, maybe it's the action that they take. All of these things that are directly related to this print piece can increase a person's score. And that then allows a salesperson to gauge interaction or interest and engagement with the message that you're sending. So, of course, when we always talk about lead scoring, we always say that it's primarily a sales tool. It can also be used as a marketing tool where you can say someone generates a certain number of points and that can trigger another action. But as a sales tool, it's especially important because then we can see this person has gone through the effort to generate a certain number of points. And that can differentiate that lead from being a low quality versus a high quality. Because as we know, the greater the engagement, the more the points, the more likely that person is going to be to convert. So a lead scoring example it can be very linear. You know, you can give someone a certain number of points for all the things that they do. So they hit a certain threshold, and maybe you set an alert that goes out and says, "Hey, this person has received a postcard. They clicked on this link. They went to this web page, this personalized URL, and as a result, then they filled out this form, or they went and they watched this video, or whatever." So they're accumulating these points, and that can trigger interaction from a salesperson that says, "Oh, this is someone I should probably call right now." So from a lead scoring perspective, I think that we start to see the ability to use print as another way to differentiate between your better and your worse leads. So that helps people be more efficient with their time. From a predictive analytics perspective, we look at statistical correlations between actions and conversion. So meaning that we're saying that there are certain things that correlate with someone becoming a customer. So we can say that there's a certain statistical correlation. Are people who receive the postcard more or less likely to become customers? We look at this from a statistical perspective. Are people who receive postcards and then land on this web page more or less likely to become customers? Does it influence the actual buyer's behavior? And then we can take that further and say, and look at, maybe it's the postcard combined with the landing page combined with watching the video. And we start to find these statistical correlations. What that tells us, from a management perspective, we can see what's actually driving sales. And we can do this testing. We can do certain postcards landing on certain types of landing pages, land with certain types of videos or web pages. Do those tend to drive more or less conversions? And that's where we as marketers then get to use this data, this intelligence, to drive the way we do business. And that can influence lead scores, it can influence the way we market, it can influence our brand, our messaging, everything. But it's data driven. It's not guessing and not thinking, well, I don't know, maybe this is the right way we should present our product. We know because we have data to back it up. And when we can correlate the data that we gather from these print campaigns, it's near real time. And it comes right into the CRM, and it helps both the sales, the marketing, and from a high-level perspective, being able to see what's actually operating your business. So I think those two components and how direct mail and automation fit into that can make a huge difference in the way a business works.
What are your thoughts about that, Dennis, and how data sort of affects print marketing, and what have you seen businesses do effectively, how they use data to personalize, from that side of things?
Sure. So, I think that that data is now at the core, really, of all marketing, right? You don't see a lot of LinkedIn profiles that say non-data-driven marketer, making decisions on gut instinct. You don't see that much. A data strategy is so important. And what's so great about what we're doing now with GreenRope is that you can have a common data strategy that is being used across all these channels, right? And so we're not duplicating data sets and emailing files around and doing all this crazy stuff. I've got this graphic that shows how direct mail used to, in a traditional direct mail world, how the data actually gets emailed from person to person, to the printer, back to the designer, over to here, boom, boom, boom. And what we're talking about here is just one data set that everything is flowing out of. And so that makes such a big difference, because you can really focus and zero in on making great data. And so on top of the predictive analytics and the lead scoring, even having a persona-driven approach to how your content gets distributed across all these channels. You can have one set of persona content for all of your key buying groups, and that can trigger an experience that goes out through mail that is then consistent when somebody goes online is consistent when they get an email, it's consistent when they get a call from a rep, right? And so rather than having these disjointed data sets that are driving, very disjointed experiences, what we're really doing here together is to create a unified view of a brand to a customer, and creating an experience that is consistent all the way through from start to finish.
Yeah, I think you just made both Lars and myself really happy with all that, because that's one of the huge things, being about GreenRope is that, it is a comprehensive, complete CRM. And like you said, you don't have all these disjointed data sets, flowing into each other, and then you're like, well, which data's right, and what should I do with this? And it's having that one data set that's great data, and I think that's huge, as marketers, and being able to successfully integrate both the online and the offline. And so I've got, I definitely want to talk a little bit about Postalytics and what you guys do. So I've got sort of one more question for the both of you. I'd like each of you to kind of give maybe 3 best practices for our audience of how they can get started. What are those first steps to take to really set up an effective direct mail campaign or strategy? So either one of you, go for it.
Great. So what we recommend is that customers just take, one part of their funnel, one activity, and think about it. If you were to automatically be able to generate mail that is personalized and very targeted, and incorporate it into your process, what would that be? And so there's a few really common ones, right? So there's event marketing, there is lead generation, there is lead reawakening, there are post-sale opportunities, right? And so we try to think of these discrete campaign opportunities as workflows, right? And so we've actually gone out and we've created some sample workflows that combine direct mail and email together. And one of the things that I really am really pounding the table on with our customers is you can't think of direct mail as a one-send thing, right? Like, a lot of times when people are new to direct mail, they think, well, I'm going to send a campaign and then I'm going to get, all these responses. And no marketing works like that. You have to have a campaign with multiple touches that is thought through, and you're building a story, you're building an offer, you're building calls to action. And so by thinking through a workflow that has multiple touches over a period of time, where you're ultimately, arriving at a call to action that moves the needle for your business, is really important. And so, so these workflows that we've created are kind of little campaigns in a box that you can start with, and you can incorporate, email and direct mail together as a way to kind of kick things off.
Very cool. And just so all of our attendees know, you will be receiving a link to all those workflows where you can download them to help you get started with all this. So look out for an email, a follow-up email. And now, Lars, what are your biggest, best practices, tips for our audience?
It really comes down to understanding process. In GreenRope, we have our journeys where you can drag and drop and kind of build what your process looks like, put in the logical steps and say, if someone does this or doesn't do this, read email, maybe they receive the postcard, click on it or whatever. Having the ability to think through that process and knowing what you want to have happen is really important. So we have our other tool, journeyflow.com, where you can go and do that process modeling. It's very high-level strategic. It's not connected to anything. It's just sort of a canvas that you can use to drag and drop and figure out, what do I want my process to look like. So I think if you start a journey flow and you kind of conceptualize what you want to have happen, then that will help you think about how you want to structure your process. And then you translate that into the CRM and marketing automation component. And I would suggest, just like Dennis said, pick a spot where you can augment your communication with some print and give it a test. And and I know that with Postalytics, you can start with where you're just paying per piece, which is, I think that's extraordinarily generous to have that. I've never seen any other company in the world do anything like that, where the per piece prices are competitive, and there's no monthly subscription required, which I think is incredible. But when you start to experiment with that, and you get to load that into your journey and your automation, you get to see, well, what sort of response are we getting? Then you build on that, and you think, okay, well, how can we augment this whole customer experience? And just like Dennis, you also mentioned before, there's some work you can do at the very bottom of the funnel, where you take your existing customers and you can engage with them and turn them from customers into advocates, where they love your brand because you're going that extra step to communicate with them. And we try to do that in all kinds of different ways, through our email, our webinars, our customer service, and everything else. But when you're able to augment that with yet another channel, it's another way that you can separate the way you do business, the way that you think about your relationships with your customers, in the sense that they mean more. You're willing to invest more. You're willing to send them a thank you card. You're willing to send them helpful content. You're willing to send them something that's personalized and useful for them. And so I would say that the real lesson to walk away from here is really understand your process and pick a couple key spots where you can really build in this automation into your lead nurturing process and see what impact it has on your sales. And I think you'll be surprised at how effective it really is.
Yeah, no, I agree. This has been, really informative for me. And Dennis, I want to give you a chance to just, give your elevator pitch on Postalytics. We do have a couple of questions, so I'd love to go through those really quickly. So our first question is just from Matthew. Will we be sent a link of the webinar? Yes, absolutely. You will be getting a link of this webinar along with some slides and the workflows that Dennis mentioned in a follow-up email, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Danny, he says, I find my biggest problem selling print is that OEMs are requesting their distributors follow their social and digital platforms, and that the OEM does the retention on behalf of the distributions. This is pushing us out of the market. Are you also finding that?
No. I think that we're finding that folks are pretty excited to kind of plug in direct mail into their journeys and their workflows, and I guess the point is really, if it's easy and it's not any more difficult than creating an email, then it shouldn't be that much of a challenge to configure and get these things set up and running, and so I think that's been our experience.
And also, like, systems like Zapier, we use Zapier to connect GreenRope and Postalytics together. And it was so easy to go into your platform, create this amazing looking postcard, set it all up, do the URLs. We had a landing page created on our side, on the GreenRope website, and then we just created this app and activated it, and it's live. It was a very easy, simple, step-by-step process it was seamless. Next question from Vicky. Do you have any suggestion for how to get the email addresses of customers we already have but have had since before the dawn of email? I am direct mailing a catalog with no metrics on delivery. Any tips from you guys on that one?
Yeah, I think it comes down to you're trying to influence buyer behavior. You're trying to get people to take an action. And that comes down to creating a call to action, something that's straightforward that says, what is my incentive as a receiver of this catalog? Why would I want to go online and give you my information so that you can then put me in your CRM? And so, creating a way to make it easy and incentivize them to take that leap of faith, to go from saying, I want to be more than just a postcard or a catalog recipient. I want to get up to date, maybe special deals that I only get if I join something that's online. Maybe there are only special products that are available to people that come online. Things like that to put yourself in the shoes of the recipient and test out different ways to get people to take action. So inside your catalog, maybe you have 2 or 3 different pages that are calls to action that bring them to a dedicated page on your website where then someone can put in their information. I don't know if your catalog currently can do the variable print, but maybe you create personalized URLs for all those recipients so that they can go and you can tag them based on where they came from. But I think it really has to do with creating that incentive as a way to push people to take something. They're going to go out of their way to put in their online information, give you their email address or whatever. You want to give them a reason to do it. And I think, and you should try different things, try different messages, try different deals or incentives, and see what works best.
Yeah, I would say also, the email acquisition is a great use case for a postcard that has one message, right? It's not littered with a lot of different concepts and a lot of different calls to action. It's like a single shot. Like, I want you to go online and fill out this form because there's something really valuable for you, right? And as part of that form, the proper email address has to be a part of the equation. And so we're seeing that a lot, actually, where people are using single-purpose postcards, very bold, very strong imagery, strong call to action, drive people online, get that email address. And by having that kind of single-purpose, one message on that print piece, it's far more effective sometimes than trying to navigate through a lot of different content in order to find the thing that is driving me online to capture that email.
Now we've got Peter Cohen. He hopped off, but he just said, I need to hop off, but very helpful, thanks. And then from Jeff D. Roberts here, Alessandra, this is great stuff. I signed up for a Postalytics account just now, and I'm looking forward to see how these 2 platforms will play together in the sandbox. This will be massive for my clients who are looking to expand their marketing footprint, and they do private schools. Thanks, and pass the word to everyone. Very impressed. Cool. Always good to have positive feedback. And then Kathy asked, "What's the name of the company again?" So now is as good a time as ever to give a Postalytics pitch.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So Postalytics is our direct mail automation tool that makes sending direct mail as easy as sending email. And so we've designed it for both folks that send direct mail today that want to make the process faster, that want to drop the production cycle from 6 weeks to 1 week, that want to track what they're doing. And it's also designed for people that don't do direct mail today. And so we've created an environment that makes the direct mail production process just a couple of clicks with your mouse. It's just like sending an email campaign, right? And so we've plugged into GreenRope. We've made that integration super easy through Zapier. And, now you can work off of that single set of data. You can target folks, and you can make print a big part of what you do without having to go talk to printers and figure out card stock and talk about Pantone colors and send, files around and all the crazy stuff that's involved in the traditional direct mail process.
Very cool. And Lars, why don't you give for all those who don't know GreenRope, but why don't you give a brief introduction to GreenRope? And then we've got a couple more questions.
So GreenRope has been around for, in one state or another, we've been evolving for the last 18 years. And we started as an email marketing company. And about 9 or 10 years ago, started with a new vision behind building an integrated platform where everything is all connected. And so when you go into GreenRope, you have the CRM, you have the marketing automation, you have the customer service side, you have the learning management. You've got all these different components built in. This is one component that we have been looking for a very long time. And I have to say, after searching for years to have finally found Postalytics, is in my mind very much like one of those holy grails of marketing, where we can then take the power of our platform where all of these things are combined, use the integration through Zapier to get Postalytics triggering messages and then getting the feedback directly back into the CRM, that it really closes the loop on marketing and technology in a way that people have been talking about for years, and now we can actually do it. And it's, I can't overstate how impressive both Dennis's team is, like the guys that are working over there, but just how on it they are, and how straightforward they are, how easy they are to work with, and how we can together really change the way a business does business, and take a business from being sort of a Me Too type thing, where everyone's kind of trying to do the same thing, trying to flood the inbox with the same kind of messages, trying to stand out, to all of a sudden now we have a thing that can really make somebody stand out. And really, our goal, just like Postalytics' goal, is to help our customers grow, help them be more effective, be more efficient, help them increase revenues, reach out to more customers, engage with them more, listen better. All of these things are all part of our mission. And I think when you find another company like Postalytics that's aligned like we are in that same kind of a mission, we're able to make a difference. And that's really why we're here.
Yeah. And then we've got a couple more questions, and I know we're running out of time, so I'll be quick. So Dean asks, when will you be operating this outside of the United States, i.e. Australia?
So, as you know, the postal operations are very different in each country, and so we've launched here in the U.S. Our plan is to begin to expand internationally in 2018, and so I hope we can get to Australia in 2018. We've got a lot of great folks that we talk to in Australia, and so I'm hoping we can do it soon this year.
All right, and then Matthew asks, as a lawyer, I try not to have a very high burden or ask to get someone's contact information on my website. So on the opt-in form, I may have their name and email address. What is the best practice to reach out and get their physical mailing address to then send them a direct mail piece? And I think that that's kind of similar to the previous question, is to have that kind of single-use postcard. Would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, Dennis, go ahead, take a shot at that.
Yeah, so getting physical addresses is actually in some ways a lot easier than getting email addresses, because it is publicly available data. And so there are a huge number of data providers out there that can help you develop a physical address database. And so we're happy to put you in touch with folks that can that provide that service, and it can really help augment your marketing when you've got both your offline and your online contact data all in one place.
Yeah, I think it also comes back to the incentives. Just like we were talking about before, the case of someone who has a physical address that they want to get an email address from, the converse works the same way. Give someone a reason and test it. See what sort of incentive you can provide that says, hey, if you give us your physical address, then we're going to be able to mail you, a thing. Whatever that thing is, whether it's information, personalized content, maybe it's a link on a postcard to a special deal, whatever, try it. Try and see what sort of different things work, and measure the response, and which is very easy to do in both platforms. where you can see how often are you getting people to actually provide that information, and that can then give you a lot of insight into that market and how to reach them.
Perfect. And then we got another well done clap from Stacy. Love the idea of the post-sale automation. So just like me, I think a lot of ideas flow in. And then Brian asked, how do you make that automated thank you happen? And so he asked if we were going to show that in campaigns. And Brian, we will be sending out creating a blog post and some how-tos on how to connect both GreenRope and Postalytics, and we'll have instructions on the zaps and stuff. So we'll definitely be making those instructions available to all GreenRope users, and of course anyone who wants to try the two. And then Dean Porter, who also asked about the outside the U.S., he said, "Is there any workaround in the meantime?"
Yeah. So our platform can't send mail to Australia currently, unfortunately. We can't help you in that regard.
Soon, though.
Get a fish, train it to swim with a postcard from the United States to Australia.
Oh, fish mail?
Fish mail.
Well, those are all the questions we had. I just really want to thank both of you for a very insightful conversation. I think that a lot of people were very engaged, and I think I myself learned a ton from the both of you, and I'm really excited just to even rewatch this and just kind of implement some new ideas myself into the marketing that we do here at GreenRope, and really into creating that seamless marriage between both online and offline marketing. So thank you, Lars. Thank you, Dennis. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who attended today. We will be sending out a recording as well as a link to some other resources that you can use to get started. And now if you guys have any last takeaways, please go ahead and share. Dennis.
Well, I'll just reiterate, thanks to everybody. Thanks to the team at GreenRope. You guys have been awesome to work with. We're super excited to kick this off now as we at the beginning of 2018. We're going to be finding all sorts of great use cases, working together, working with common customers to, improve their marketing and grow their businesses. And so I hope everybody enjoyed the webinar, and we're super excited to be introduced to this audience through you guys.
Yeah, likewise. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't obviously for our customers. But if we weren't motivated by the feedback that we get and the ability for us to really come together and create something that's really useful and powerful for our customers, and combined with Postalytics and GreenRope customers, the way that we can together create something that's more powerful, that can help businesses grow and run efficiently. I mean, that's really why we're here, and we appreciate the people that take the time to trust us with their technology and their CRM and their marketing. And we look forward to continuing to serve our customers and helping you all grow. So thank you for dedicating a little bit of your day to us.
Thank you, guys. Again, this was great. I look forward to the next one. All right, and thank you again for everyone who attended. We will hopefully see you on one of our next webinars. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, and weekend. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.